Newzroom Afrika's Xoli Mngambi is in Polokwane, where the ANC will hold its 110th anniversary birthday celebration. And he joins us live now. Xoli, just give us details as to what we could expect today before we go into what happened last night.
Well, Tejo, a very good morning to you and the team. Let me tell you firstly that we have been stationed out here now for about an hour and a half. We got here at the security gate at around 4:30 this morning because as broadcasters we need to set up so that by the time 6 o'clock hits, our viewers, especially the early risers, they are able to get a sense of what can be expected at the ANC's 110th birthday celebrations. But as things stand, Tejo and Buhle, we are still stationed here. The only vehicles that have been able to pass through this checkpoint that is behind me, it is the police officers, and they have been doing a security sweep. That's the information we got in the morning. I just want to allow my colleague Senzo to just give you a sense of the queue that stands as I look ahead. And right now, what you're about to see is a very long queue of vehicles that are waiting to get in here, and it has been like this since early morning. Now, I'm not sure whether it is the police officers arriving at the venue late, or it could be that they want to make sure that nothing is left to chance, given the number of incidents, if we were to call them that have occurred. And of course, if we go back to what happened last night, the ANC might want to avoid that, and the security personnel in particular, they will be desperate as well to make sure that at least nothing goes amiss from their side. Tejo, you want to prompt the events of last night? I'll leave that to you.
Well, Xoli, let's actually focus on those events a little bit. Of course, security will be a very important factor, more important this morning because of the events that have been happening in the build-up to today in particular. What is the mood like, especially coming to the police? How are they handling the other people that aren't necessarily dignitaries and that aren't officials of the party?
Well, let me put it to you this way, Buhle. If you look at the attitude of the police officers, they are the ones that are at least manning this security checkpoint. You can see that there is an air or a sense of desperation from their side to make sure that they do their job thoroughly, and perhaps it might explain why we are out here up until this time, having arrived so early in the morning. But if we link back to the events that have happened over the last few days, of course, perhaps the most embarrassing of all is last night, the president's speech. Yes, he was nearing the tail end of his speech, but for him to finish off in such an embarrassing manner where he had to speak at the top of his voice because the PA system completely collapsed as a result of the electricity outage, specifically to the hall, Buhle, because that hall, when you stepped outside, as we did, following him as he was being taken away, because he couldn't remain inside the hall, including his deputy. Remember, the two top officials of the country, the president and the deputy president, as we understand it, or as we have come to know over the years, we understand that, first of all, if they are going to any important meeting, or whether it be a meeting that will be outside the country, they can't fly in the same plane because of that security risk should anything happen to them. You can't have both the president and the deputy president being involved in some issue, so they have to be in separate locations. But add to that, Buhle, the fact that the president, therefore, as he left the venue last night, the outages at that particular venue, they just kept on coming, because the first one that hit when he was inside, that seemed to go on for quite a while before electricity was restored. Then you had another second outage that came just as the guests I think, were being served the actual main course. So you then go back, Buhle, to the build-up to today, basically, where the president, one specific event that he was meant to address, a Lillian Ngoyi lecture he was meant to give, had to leave that particular venue abruptly because the official line was that the COVID regulations were not being adhered to. Then you link this, Buhle, to the issues that have occurred at the start of this week. Parliament burning down, the Constitutional Court being attacked by a lone man with a hammer. The ANC has been desperate to say, don't link these issues. First and foremost, the events of last night, the outage, they're saying, put that at the doorstep of the people who own this venue. The ANC surely can't be held accountable for that, although it is and was an embarrassment for the ANC, given that its top official was or had to cut his speech short, although he was at the tail end of it. So all of these events combined, Buhle, they link back to whether or not the president, what he spoke about last night, that the issue of the country's security might be something to talk about, and this has to do, importantly, with South Africans as well, needing to not only be safe, but also feel safe. Are we at a point where the country is, in a way, experiencing something that is worrying as far as security is concerned? Well, the president was saying that there has been a restructure of the security arrangement, and he said that this is something that he is going to be elaborating on in the days to come. We don't know whether that will be today, but certainly there has been a rearrangement of the security. Remember that the State Security Agency, the ministry, now sits in the presidency, and there is only a deputy minister now, Zizi Godwa, who sits at that particular ministry, but although it sits under the presidency. So, Buhle, to basically complete my point, there does seem to be something that is completely wrong with the security arrangement of the country, given the events of last year, July. Over 300 people lost their lives as a result of that unrest. Might the president be alluding to this when he speaks about South Africans not only being safe, but needing to feel the sense that they are safe? That's just perhaps the lay of the land as far as the security concerns are something to speak about, Buhle.
Xoli, you've mentioned other security concerns. You've told us about, what's currently happening. You've been there for about an hour and a half as the police search the vehicles there. What can we expect today?
Well, today it's a very important day. Remember that the ANC has used the January 8th statement as a way to chart the way forward as to what the country is going to look like, or what the program of government, importantly, is going to look like. And so the January 8th statement is used often, particularly at the start of the year, as a way to give a line of march. And then you will have the ANC Lekgotla. This is where it involves now the government officials, where the program of government is being set out. So the January 8th statement, which, by the way, is a statement of the ANC NEC. It's not the statement of the president. It's the statement of the top leadership of the ANC. They have been working out that particular statement in the lead up to today. So today will be an important day to chart the way forward as to what the program of government, importantly, is going to look like. And so you're going to have the ANC's alliance partners. You talk about COSATU, you talk about the SACP, you talk about SANCO. They are going to be giving speeches here today. Also important to mention, Tseho, that this is the first time since COVID hit our country and indeed the world that the ANC is able to gather and address this rally in person, because it was done virtually since the start of the pandemic. And so that's basically what the expectation should be today, that there is going to be that kind of address by the president. As to the tone of it, we can only wait and see what that is going to look like. But again, I suppose uppermost in the president's mind is whether or not he can reassure the nation that there is absolute certainty that the country is not under any security threat.
Xoli, just before I ask you the final question, before we let you go, I want to make mention, Minister Naledi Pandor last night, speaking after the events that unfolded, essentially saying that it could have been a power surge of sort that would have taken place and caused the whole to go down. Now, I don't know about you, Xoli, but in my house, if the living room goes down, the whole house goes dark, not just the living room. But I'll leave that there. Regarding today, we know that the elective conference looms large as well. We've seen sporadic flare-ups of campaigning, if I can call it that. Do you think that the president might... I know you said it's the NEC statement, but might the president want to use today as a way to just reinforce the ANC and his position within the ANC for perhaps a second term?
Well, I'm glad you've raised that point, Buhle, because the president did mention in his speech last night that if there is instability within the governing party, which, by the way, he spoke about at length, the issue of renewal within the ANC, the issue of discipline, the issue of just giving a sense that the ANC is in charge and is speaking in unison. Well, there was a potential event that we understand would have been attended by the suspended Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, in Limpopo, and efforts, it would appear, were made to make sure that that event does not take place. Remember, Ace Magashule is not supposed to be part and parcel of any ANC activity, given the fact that he is suspended. And talking about people who are actually under suspension or are on the or have had the step-aside rule implemented as a result of the issues that surround them as individuals. There is Denim Caesar, who is the treasurer of this particular province, Limpopo. He's also on suspension, and therefore he can't be part of the activities. But there has been something of a disturbance, potential disturbance by elements that are or could be seen as wanting to destabilize the events that are going to happen here today. So to answer your question, Buhle, the ANC, it heads to its elective conference at the end of this year. That will be in December 2022. And this instability that comes with that as a result of the factional fights, different factions trying to position and trying to basically be in the spotlight for one issue or another. That's something that we can most certainly expect, but it is something that the leadership of the ANC is going to be desperate to try and thwart or try to put a lid on up until the issue of the actual elective conference comes to play. Because remember, there is a time that then these particular issues or the succession debate in the ANC is allowed, and therefore it is important that the ANC tries to put a lid on all of these factional fights that might play out this year. But it does appear that the year is starting on a wrong footing, but it's going to be interesting to see how the ANC leadership tries to put a face that says we are a united party, even though there is this momentous event that is going to take place at the end of this year.
Newzroom Afrika's Xoli Mngambi, thank you so much for your time this morning. He's, of course, out in Polokwane, and the team is there. We'll continue crossing to them to give us live coverage as to what is happening over there as the ANC celebrates its 110th birthday.